Hello everyone, Mr. D here with continuing the video about Handel's music. Um, Handel was recognized as one of the greatest composers of the Baroque age. Baroque age, as I mentioned, is a very long period. It goes from 1600 to 1750. Handel is most well known for his English oratorios. Now, what are oratorios? An oratorio is basically an opera without the costumes and the scenery. So you have everything. You have the orchestra, you have the choir, you have the soloists, but no costumes, no scenes like backgrounds, like fake trees and anything, no acting. He introduced this format to England and quickly became popular. Now, I need to talk to you a little bit of why the oratorios. Back then, in England, and remember, Handel was a master of the Italian opera. Okay. However, there was a push uh, that if you were writing an opera on a religious subject, that it wasn't very nice. Basically, the theater was seen as a place of vices, as is not a good place that had no good connection with religion and spirituality. At first, Handel was writing operas about Greek heroes and Greek gods, but those started to become unpopular. And then came a law that actually prohibited um, having an opera and acting of anything that is in the Bible on stage. So Handel found a clever way to go around that. So he started writing oratorios which did not have any acting, did not have any costumes, did not have any scenery, and therefore they were permitted. So everything else was banned. And as his Italian operas took a hit and they were getting more and more unpopular, less ticket sales and all that, his oratorios actually were very well received. Handel was able to put a wide variety of musical traditions. As you remember, he was born in Germany. He studied in, he worked in Italy. So German, Italian, English, even French music traditions came up to his works. Um, as I mentioned, his travels to Italy really refined his skill. However, one of his genius moments is that he often broke the traditional rules of music to make a dramatic impact. He did not. He wrote music that would entertain the public, and he did not think or was even concerned what other composers would think of his works. Some of his most famous pieces, in addition to the oratorios and Italian operas, are some music that he wrote for the royal court. One of his most famous pieces was water music. And so what happened is they put gigantic barges on the river, and they put musicians on there, and then they floated upstream towards Chelsea, and they played his composition. Another one of his most famous pieces is the royal fireworks. Now, the king actually did not want any strings for that, so it had lots of wind instruments and percussion instruments. Handel had the habit of writing extremely intensely for a short period of time. One of his most famous oratorios, Messiah, which you probably have heard, he wrote it just about 3.5 weeks. And he also tended to return to some of his previous compositions by getting revisions and getting them better. He did not shy from borrowing or even what you can call stealing from other composers. So he would take a composer's idea and he would develop it on his own. Some of Handel's music is not available. Like for example, a lot of the Hamburg music that he composed did not survive. Composers needed patrons to pay for their work. Patrons are very rich, noble people who basically give money to composers like Handel. So the terms of his employment were somewhat flexible, but he was expected to produce cantatas for performances on Sunday. He was receiving a pension from being in the royal court composer throughout his life. That's actually, as a matter of fact, how Queen Anne poached him from his German employer. So, as I mentioned, Handel's biggest strength was the oratorios, and one of his most famous oratorios is Messiah. In the next segment, I will put some of his most famous pieces for you guys to enjoy and listen and to be able to recognize. Thank you all.